Hi, I'm Roderick Jean-Charles.
My name is Jaren Bogle.
My name is Erica Luna Diaz.
Hi, my name is Carlos Luna.
What have you gained from your experience working in the shelters during a global pandemic?
I feel like this experience brought me a lot of knowledge. It opened up my eyes, and I was able to service a community that I've never worked with before.
I think the one thing I truly gained is the appreciation for the homeless and what they have to go through. Of course, you have those people who don't want to be housed because of various personal reasons, but there's a lot of people out there who are just unfortunate, bad luck that happened to them, and they ended up on the street and have no place to go.
I'm a recreation professional and I gained so much medical training, mental health training, personal safety training. Everything was on the spot training. And again, I worked shelters for over a year.
COVID-19 has been a whirlwind. I'm sure for myself and many other people have had to adapt to many differences. But working as a shelter manager, it really changed me.
What was the biggest challenge for you when called to respond to this emergency?
The unknown. We got called on this emergency, and because of COVID, of course, and no one knew the how big COVID is going to be or where it was going to go. And having to answer this call is actually having to put your life on the line. Having to go there and put on this hazmat suit and mask and gloves and a face shield and forever, sanitizing our hands and keeping 6-10 feet away from these people who were homeless, who were living on the streets, who were in closed quarters, and having to come and work with them and be around them was really scary. And not knowing where it's gonna go, if we're going to put our lives on the line and catch COVID, and actually, are we going to die from it? It was such unknown for the whole time that it was a really scary thing for us.
When we first got the call, it was definitely something that was very difficult. It was mixed emotions. You wanted to go out and help, but you're also very scared because you didn't know what direction COVID was going to go. We didn't have any answers in regards to what our department was going to do. All we knew is that we were being asked to go and service a community that we've never serviced before. And, I'm happy I did it, but it was definitely something that was very scary.
It was challenging. It was challenging to say the least. I saw so many physical altercations and unneeded violence. So many inappropriate acts of sexual behavior on the daily. I saw a lot of nudity. I saw more things than any one person should see, especially working for recreation and parks. And I saw it on a very regular basis.
I still remember when I got the call, they said, "Hey, we need you to come if you're available to help set up a shelter." I said, "Yeah, count me in." I think there was 14 shelters at first, and then they expanded to more, but I was one of the first ones to go on call. I went and I made myself available because I knew people were in need. Luckily, I was in a position where I felt comfortable going. I know there was a lot of uncertainty, but I knew that people needed my help, and it would be people needed my help, and I needed to be there to help them.
Why was this important to you?
It was important to me because it needed to be done. I love helping people. I love being there for others. And I think it's important for as recreational professionals to step up for the city, for the country, for ourselves, to help others, to get these homeless people off the street, to provide shelter, to provide mental stimulation or food.
Being a recreation professional, you help people in however you can, and I felt like me going there and helping them out was part of my job and my responsibility and duty as a person that is supposed to help the community.
As a disaster service worker, how prepared were you for this emergency assignment?
I really didn't have a lot of background on mental health and didn't really understand it until after I started dealing with it.
There was nothing that could have prepared any of us for what we experienced working shelter operations. Yes, the department had provided us with training on how to set up a shelter, how to run a shelter, numbers, all of that, all of the training necessary for a typical shelter. But, you know, as we all know, this was not any type of typical shelter situation. Even if the department would have known ahead of time how it was going to go down, there's still no type of hands-on no type of training that would have fully prepared us for this, except for on-the-spot hands-on training, and that's basically what it was for us.
What other agencies and community partners did you work with through your shelter worker experience?
We got to work with different agencies, LASA, the Department of Mental Health, a reason we probably would have never connected if it wasn't for this particular reason.
I worked very closely with the police, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, nurses.
We dealt with organizations that were all about shelters and housing, and they had the experience when it came to dealing with homeless people and the different types of homeless people. You know, people on drugs, or people just out of work, or just who have who are mentally unstable. Also, we worked with the Department of Mental Health, and they were great. They were there providing services to the unhoused that really couldn't connect with people. There's so many unhoused people out there, and they're trying to connect with people within DMH, and they couldn't. It was hard for them, and having access to that, a lot of people got help.
What was it like inside the shelter?
Because there was a lot of drug addicts there, and we weren't allowed to, with the security guards and checking bags and all that, a lot of people were trying to bring in drugs to the shelters, and when they couldn't, they would have reactions to not having it, and it would get violent. There was situations where residents fought each other, situations where they're screaming and yelling at us. So we had to put our lives were literally on the line every day when we walked in there, because a lot of the homeless is mentally unstable, and at any point they could snap.
I witnessed so many heart attacks right in front of me. I'm holding the person in my arms. Seizures, grandma seizures, stabbing victims, blunt force trauma, head injuries. I had lots of schizophrenic residents, or I should say residents with schizophrenia. You name it, I had it. At my first initial shelter, which is the shelter that I was at for the longest, I dealt with all of that. We celebrated birthdays together. You know, we worked the holidays and celebrated the holidays together. You know, Christmas, New Year's, everything, you name it. Because again, shelter operations lasted over a year. So these people truly became family to us, and we became family to them. And I know that it will never happen again. It's a process that I'm grateful for. I could truly say it has changed me for the better. I have learned so much, I have experienced so much, and if I hadn't worked shelters, you know, I know that I would never have these experiences.
As a recreation professional, how has your experience as a shelter worker changed your perspective on the unhoused?
I realized they're people as well. You know, their problems is not that different from mine. And it reminded me when I was younger, when I was practically homeless, living couch to couch, and how close I could have been to them, or in that situation, living on the street.
Some of the most positive things that I will never forget is I definitely have a much better understanding of the homeless community, the challenges that they face, mental health issues, and at the time, despite all these challenges, these people really did. They became my family. Like I mentioned, without seeing my actual family for over a year and just working the shelter operations, these residents had truly become my family, and that's how they felt about me. That's how they felt about the other staff. That's how we felt about each other.
It definitely changed me, the perspective. In the past, you kind of see a homeless person on the side, you really know their story. So working with this homeless population, I was able to really get to know a lot of the residents. I don't like calling them the homeless. I call them as residents. They were residents at a recreation center. I treated them like any other person. They were very grateful.
Do you have a story you can share with us about your experience in the shelter?
We had police raids for people who were murder suspects that, were hiding out in our shelter and staying with us as our residents. I had the federal marshals come and raid our shelter because once we had entered one of our residents' name into our system, this is how the federal marshals found this person in our database, because the name popped up, and they came and from across state and raided our shelter and arrested him. Multiple child abuse offender, multiple charges. He had been on the run for over a year. His one and only call he got from the LA County Jail, because that's where they housed him for the time being, because then they were supposed to transport him across state lines. His one and only phone call, he called me. He called me at the park. Because of COVID restrictions at the time, even though he had been captured and was non-permanently being housed in LA County Jail before they can transport him across the lines back to the state where he was convicted or is being convicted. Because of the COVID restrictions, they were not allowing inmates to be transported across state, or there was some type of rule or law because of COVID. And because of that, he actually was released from prison and came straight to the park to find me. So there was I had quite a few very real, very scary, very life-changing experiences.
This gentleman who was staying at our shelter came in and stayed to himself for the most of the part, but started warming up to us and started getting very comfortable and started opening up about his life. He mentioned that he had been in jail and he had a 4-year-old son in a different state, and he really wanted to get his life together. And he was taking advantage of every services that was provided on site. He mentioned he wanted to get an education, so we helped him enroll in Santa Monica College and was taking classes virtually while being at the shelter. He needed a job. We connected him to the right people, and he started working in downtown and cleaning up Skid Row and doing everything that he possibly could to ensure that he got his life in order. He definitely put a lot of work and effort into everything that he was doing, and we continuously would cheer him on and check in on him. We would have like those daily meetings where it was like, how's it going, how are you? And I think those conversations really helped them and pushed them do what he wanted to do. The last day that he was there, we actually were so happy for him. And when he left, it was bittersweet because we were very happy to see him, do what he wanted to do. But it was sad because, he basically became part of our daily lives. We cheered him on as he walked away and did a little chant for him. And he was definitely very grateful at the end. Right before he left, he gave us a letter stating, "Thank you for everything. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be where I'm at today."
We were at 109th. 109th is close to Augustus Hawkins, which is a mental health institution. We had a different population that was dealing with mental health issues. One of the shelter residents came to 109th and was dealing with some alcohol issues. He was going through withdrawals. He mentioned to me that before he got to the shelter, he considered taking his life because he had lost his wife right before the pandemic started, and he really didn't know what to do. He didn't have any family. That he moved from Guatemala to Mexico and then to the United States, and really didn't have anyone support besides the wife. Once that he got comfortable, opened up to me, and I said, "Oh, we're here for you, whatever you need." And the first thing he asked me was if I had an extra pair of shoes. I took him a brand new pair of shoes, and he was so thankful. That kind of just opened up a relationship between that resident and myself. I was able through Facebook able to connect the daughter and the dad. We were able to get a hold of her. You know, that kind of turned his mental health around. He began to kind of get reincorporate himself into the I guess into his life. He used to sell peanuts before the pandemic started. He's like, hey, all I need is $50. Let me borrow $50 and I promise you that I will get them back to you. I donated him $50. The next day he got up early, he took the bus downtown, he got a big bag of peanuts and he got Ziploc bags and he started selling them. That really motivated him.
How did you manage your mental health during this time? What helped you cope?
Camaraderie. All of my fellow peers and Brecken Park friends coming in there, having that to talk about a situation, about what's going on in other parks, what's going on there, and being able to, you know, get away when our shift was over and refresh ourselves. We had long days. We worked 12-hour days, either day or night, 4 days a week. And so having the 3 days off really helped us because it was a longer weekend, a longer extension for our recovery. And that helped me cope. So I think there are people out there who were sheltered for 6 months, for a year, who were going crazy and mad because they didn't have that communication, they didn't have that contact, and we had that, and it really helped me stay sane, you know.
What are your thoughts on your overall experience working through this emergency assignment?
It's been a whirlwind. It's changed my life. I feel like I'm a better person now, and I was able to change someone's life. That was just one person that I was able to touch, and I have many other stories of other residents that we were able to help. And I'm sure, as myself and other people during the pandemic that were helping at these shelters, were able to help change people's lives, get them back on track, give them a purpose, and being overall well.
So definitely, this experience was not easy, but extremely rewarding, and I would do it all over again if I had to, but hopefully not.
Believe me, it truly was an amazing, positive experience. I felt like in shelter operations, we made more of a difference in the lives of the community at that time than anybody else possibly could have. Everybody else, you know, with people staying home and businesses having to close down and all of that, it was us, police, fire, doctors, and nurses. You know, recreation parks, saving the world.